Hey everybody, welcome back to another video on the channel, and in today's video we're going to be discussing Intel's new roadmap that has been leaked, and this is for Comet Lake, and basically Intel's roadmap from this year 2018 all the way up to 2021, and what they're going to be doing for all their different series of chips for H and G series, for their U series, Y, S, and Xeon E. So this came out a few days ago about Intel's new roadmap and what they're planning for each of these different series of chips, and a little bit more details on like how many cores they're going to have, as well as what process node they're going to use. So right here, Coffee Lake H refresh is where we are at, with between 2 and 8 cores at 14 nanometers, and then all the way, if you guys look all the way to the very end, the first time we're actually going to see 10 nanometer chips is going to be in 2021 at the earliest, with U and Y series chips being the first to use 10 nanometers. And those are super low wattage chips, so don't expect to be, getting an 1100K or whatever, chip that is 10 nanometers. So this is really bad news for Intel, and it basically looks like they love 14 nanometers so much that they're going to be sticking with 14 nanometers all the way until about 2021. So, we still got like 2 years left of this apparently, which is kind of sad because we first saw 14 nanometers with Skylake clear back in 2015, and it's constantly been getting refreshed. We first had Skylake, and then it was refreshed into KB Lake, and then we finally got Coffee Lake, and then we got the Coffee Lake refresh, which is where we're at right now with the 9th generation CPUs. Now, one might say that this isn't necessarily a terrible thing, that it's still, fundamentally based on the same architecture. It's basically still Skylake from back in 2015 that we're using here this year. But I mean, there still has been, quite a bit of improvements. So this might not be all bad news, because I mean, we, the flagship at the time was the 6700K, the 4-core 8-thread i7 that was clocked at 4.0 gigahertz, and it turbo up to 4.2. That was pretty good. And then with the next generation, KB Lake gave us the 7700K, which was still 4 cores, 8 threads. And this one was 4.2 base and would boost up to 4.5 gigahertz. Some people were overclocking that up to 5 gigahertz. And then after that, with Coffee Lake, we got the i7 8700K, which is still regarded as like the top CPU basically on the market right now. I mean, it trades blows with the 9900K and the 9700K. The 8700K is basically, it was like the top dog gaming chip for a little while there, and I mean, pretty much even still is to this day. And Coffee Lake is really when Intel started to feel some of the heat from AMD, and they increased the i7, the top dog, 8700K, up to 6 cores, 12 threads, which was actually pretty incredible. And because the previous two chips, the 6700K and the 7700K, were both 4-core 8-thread chips, and they got modest clock speed increases with each generation. So 7700K performed a bit better than the 6700K, but the 8700K really blew it out of the water. Now with 6 cores, an extra 2 cores on top of those two, so 50% extra cores, and then ran at 3.7 gigahertz base clock, but then would turbo up to 4.7 gigahertz. And a lot of people were able to get 8700Ks overclocked over 5 gigahertz. And then, of course, Intel released the 8086K, which, was base clock at 4.0 gigahertz, which was basically better bin to 8700Ks, but would, overclock turbo up to 5 gigahertz. And then after that, we had the 9th gen CPUs came out a year after that. Then we had the 9700K, which increased core counts once again and jumped up from the 8700K's 6 cores, 12 threads, now up to 8 cores, but actually lost hyper-threading with only 8 threads. So you lost 4 threads with the 9700K, but you did get 2 extra cores. Its base clock was 3.6 gigahertz, then it went up to 4.9, but of course, the big dog in the fight was Intel's Core i9 9900K, which was an 8-core, 16-thread CPU. They kind of stripped out hyper-threading from the i7s and put hyper-threading as an i9 only feature. So you had the i9 9900K with an 8 cores, 16 threads at 3.6 gigahertz, and then would turbo up to 5 gigahertz on 2 of those cores, which was actually pretty incredible because, I mean, all these previous ones, only one of those cores would reach that, turbo rate. And since this CPU has actually been soldered, that's how they're able to get, higher clock speeds. And people have even been able to overclock the 9900K 5 gigahertz pretty stable, and even up above 5 gigahertz as well. So it's not like not using a brand new process node is a terrible thing, because if you compare, the 6700K to the 9900K, I mean, it's fundamentally, it's still 14 nanometers, but there's been significant improvements made since. We've gone from 4 cores, 8 threads to 8 cores, 16 threads. So we've literally doubled the amount of cores and doubled the amount of threads that we've gotten. And then, the clock speed, it's been about the same, but I mean, overall, we've gone from 4.0 on 4 cores as its base clock to now all the way up with the 9900K to get 3.6 on all 8 cores. And of course, if you buy a K-series chip, you're going to want to overclock it. That's the whole point of a K-series chip. So you're going to get that up to about 5 gigahertz or more. So there is still things Intel can do with this. I don't know about now. I mean, they still could slap on even more cores and, try and boost that clock speed up. But I think that right about now, Intel is basically screaming for a brand new process node. And according to this roadmap, we're not going to be getting 10 nanometers until 2021 at the earliest. This is kind of disappointing to hear, and it kind of seems like AMD might take the cake for the next 2, maybe 3 years or so with their CPUs. Now that they're going to be using 7 nanometers, and just to clarify a little bit, Intel's 10 nanometers is on par with AMD's 7 nanometers. So it's not like AMD is just, gonna blaze through with 7 nanometers and Intel's still gonna be stuck on 14 and AMD is just gonna rock the house. Yes, AMD's still gonna do great things with their 7 nanometers, but Intel's working on their 10 nanometers, so AMD's 7 nanometers versus, even if Intel skips 10 and goes down to 7 altogether, AMD's 7 versus Intel's 7, Intel's is gonna be much better than AMD's 7 nanometers. But I do think that AMD is really going to, take the crown for these next few years with their CPUs. They most likely still won't be top dog in terms of clock speed. I still think that Intel is going to hold on to that with their dying breath. And this year, whenever Intel releases their 10th generation CPUs, I think once again we're going to get basically the same thing that we got with between Skylake and with Kaby Lake. So I think we're going to basically be doing a similar jump between the 6700K and the 7700K. Hopefully Intel can make some improvements to the existing chips, and that this year's chip, well, at least still, if it's going to be on 14 nanometers for this year, next year, and all the way until 2021, that maybe, we're going to get even higher clock speeds, because to be honest with you, most games and a lot of programs still are heavily single threaded, and high clock speeds are also very, very important for high frame rate games. So if you want to play a game at 240 FPS for your new 240 hertz monitor, then you're going to need a pretty powerful CPU in order to output that many frames. So if Intel's still going to be stuck on this 14 nanometer for a while now, I mean, I guess the best they can really do is just try and add another plus onto their already 14 nanometer plus, whatever, how many pluses they've got now, and just try and bump up those clock speeds, I guess, better. And maybe give us the new 10 core as our high end. Maybe the new 199K. Maybe it'll go up to 10 cores, 20 threads with 5 gigahertz. That'd be pretty cool. That'd make it great for playing games and live streaming, and probably even 4K video creation at the exact same time. 10 cores would be pretty freaking sweet. But to be honest with you, I think we're going to be stuck with 8 cores, 16 threads on the new top end chip for this year, with probably just, modest speed improvements. So I'm not sure. What do you guys take away from this? Let me know in the comments down below. This is crazy, though, that Intel, man, they are not having a good time over there, and they really need to get their head in the game, because AMD's really just beating them to the punch now, and it's definitely going to show with their new Ryzen 3000 series. And I mean, I'm excited to see what AMD is going to do, but man, Intel's going to have to do something. Either they are going to have to finally get this whole 10 nanometer thing worked out, or perhaps they could finally, cut the price on some of their CPUs, start lowering some of that as well to compete. But overall, I mean, it's hard to say if this is going to be good for the consumer. I think it might be, because it might push people towards AMD a little bit and make Intel have more competitive pricing. But at the same time, Intel's going to be stuck on this, and it would be better for the consumer if we could get away from 14 nanometers and down to 10 and, lower and lower and lower. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and 1 like on this video equals 1 prayer for Intel, because man, they are going to need it. Alright, I'll catch you guys in another video.